So now we're going to welcome Michael Frost and the Greatercandle Empowerment. So Michael, come on.
Good morning, everyone.
Use the mic so we have our Zoomers. Oh, yeah.
What happens when you get such good help around here?
Fucking it all up.
You ruined my entire flow. If it doesn't go well, it's his fault.
I'm going home.
That'll become apparent.
Use your microphone so the Zoom.
Oh, I need a microphone.
Yeah, because people are.
I'm pretty damn loud.
And we're recording this. Are we recording?
Morning, everybody. Okay. A young man sees the master exiting his home. He runs to his feet. He kneels down and says, "Master, grant me great wisdom, so I may prosper the way you do." He tells the master, looks down at the boy, tells him to stand up, brush up his pants, and says, "I want you to go find a stick in the woods. Meet me in town. Tomorrow at noon." Boy scrambles off. The master runs on his way. The next day at noon, the master is in the town square eating noodles. And the boy arrives with the stick in his hand and two people on either. "Master, I've arrived with what you've asked for." The master looks up from his monkey. No any idea what's going on because he's "Okay, what did you bring me?" "I brought you this stick so you would impart on me great wisdom." And he looks at the two boys. He says, "Why are you here? I only invited him." He said, "Well, he came by and he told us the story of the stick and how the great master would impart on him great wisdom, and then he can impart it on us. And we're waiting for you to impart on that wisdom, and so he can share it with us, and we can share it with our own communities." The master says, "Well, what have you learned?" And the boy says, "I don't know." He said, "But you have. You took what I have given you. You went and completed the task exactly as I said, exactly with the parameters I've given you. You managed to share that experience along the way. So you come to me today with a story, an experience, with a community. I want you to take that stick and tell its story. And that is how you learn wisdom." And the boys look at each other, they look at the master, have no idea what to do. "Let me lead my life." And he walks away. That is my impression of what a life should be. I represent Greatercandle Empowerment Services. Now I can finally grab this thing. Greatercandle Empowerment Services was an idea that I came up with shortly after I was hurt in my work with special operations. Everybody told me that I was done. There was nothing I could do. I would live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Obviously, that isn't the case. So my name is Michael Frost. I'm a veteran, active team leader in 2 different combat zones. I come from a place where I can tell you exactly how much life sucks. A summa cum laude graduate in cybersecurity. I have backgrounds in technical management, organizational management, and I'm also certified expert in dynamic leadership and leadership. All these things are on here, but I want to explain why I'm here, why I'm talking to you today. I spent a great deal of my life asking what if. Why isn't this working for me? Why isn't this working for anyone else? And I came across the question, what if? The dreaming phase. We don't have an idea of where things are going to go. We don't have an idea of where things are going to end up. but we do know what we want. We do know what we think. What would the world look like if we didn't have to settle for the jobs that we take? I think every one of us would ask the question at some point in their life. What if I could do the thing I'm passionate about? What if I could do the thing I really want to do? Get effective, motivated employees. Confident, driven objectives. Now, what's the next attitude? That's at the top of every person's to-do list. I want to walk into work, know what I'm going to do, be driven to do it, and when I'm done, be prepared to say, what's next? Adults, 18 to 30, that is the largest demographic of workers today. How many of them look forward to going to work? Every person in this room, with absolute surety, at least once per week, says, I really don't want to get up. I'd rather just stay in bed. I'd rather just sit there and absorb the warmth of the covers, not have to deal with the BS of the rest of the day. Would it surprise you to know that is virtually every single person in the working world today? And not out of intention, out of requirement. Because nearly everybody with a college education settles for a job that they don't actually want to do. That's what's paying the bills. It's what's giving them the opportunity to fund their other ideas. And most of us never fulfill those ideas. Why do you think this is? It's because we don't have the drive. It's because we don't have the motivation. The answer to both those questions, in my opinion, is no. Because we don't have the opportunity. We don't have the community. We don't have the understanding of what it takes to go from where we are to where we want to be. 10 things you didn't learn in high school. This is a book that I wrote under a pseudonym of William Allen. It details my experiences and my understandings of how the world really worked versus what I was told growing up in an Ivy League situation, growing up with every opportunity you can imagine. I still found myself failing in every conceivable way because I didn't have the community. I didn't have the understanding behind it. So you can start from any position in life and experience every level of failure along the way. And you can start from any position below that and have every success along the way. There is no roadmap. And I can tell you that with personal experience. I can tell you that with any number of experiences, any number of specific people that I've worked with who've been told flat out, you're going to fail. Why DS? Why me? These are things that I have learned how to do. These are things I'm certified in teaching. And more often than not, these are things I'm passionate about. I retired 35 years old. And none of that was because I was smarter, more effective, just better. I use these very tools every day in my life. And I'm prepared and passionate about sharing the techniques that I use, the people that I've used it for. Current projects that I've used these ideas on is a tremendous opportunity for anybody that works in innovation and research, called the SBIR grant. SBIR. It's basically a free outpouring of billions of dollars with a B. The federal government giving out so much money to so many different people, asking the question, what haven't we thought of next? And this one person I'm working with right now, in 2 days, it's the deadline for this. I'm so sorry. But he's prepared to make about $3.7 million off of a 5-minute conversation. Growth through opportunity. What am I doing right now? I'm standing in front of a whole bunch of moderately successful people that want to become more successful in what they're doing. Now, my hope, my impression is to stand in front of young people, stand in front of veterans, stand in front of people that have been told no far too many times. to turn that no into a yes. Because it doesn't matter what's in your way, just how hard you're willing to work to get it. You cannot ever be told no in a way that affects you more than you can affect yourself. And you can look at any level of history, what I'm passionate about, what many people here are passionate, and learn that no is simply an obstacle to the next yes. So as you can see, I want to start off with seminars. I want to get in front of people like you. I want to talk to businesses. I want to get to the point where people are asking, what if? People are asking, what's next? People are asking, what does it take to be successful in what already exists? And then I want to get to the point where I'm running events. I want to give other people the opportunity to do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Because I believe that business needs to change. And I believe we keep doing things the way that our grandparents did them. We're gonna end up in situations of failure, of loss, and revolt. I don't think any of us want. So this is basically what I do. That's how to actually get in touch with me and talk to me about what's going on. That's how to get my information. This is your opportunity to ask any questions you want. And there's a lot of things that I know.
Very interesting presentation. This is kind of stereotype breaking presentation for me. So, but it's somewhat confusing for me what you're doing. Is there a chance you could give an example from your experience, what you do with the people, what pains you resolve, and where you bring them? Thank you.
I appreciate the question. For anybody that didn't hear, can I give an example of something that has actually helped a person? Is that basically what it is? So basically, like I was saying with the Seaver grant that I was just talking about, we have a presentation that we're not good enough. Basically, what we're told is we can't accomplish something. And so in my life, I was affected by a catastrophic RPG attack. And so it took out most of my right side with nerve damage and things of that nature. And you had an infrared light, or I'm sorry, ultraviolet light. I mean, it would just be a fireworks show on one side of my body. But what I was told by the doctor is that I get used to a wheelchair. I get used to what I wanted to do, and find a way to just do it while sitting down. And I basically, I don't really like swearing. I don't really like saying anything along those lines. But I told them that I didn't want what they had to offer me, and I went off on my own. I met a person who was recovering from drugs. And I was at a point where I didn't know what I wanted in my life, but I realized that he was there and he was listening. He was at a painful part in his life. He didn't know what he was going to do next. And I took the philosophy of Buddhism and the impermanence of everything. How what we do and what we think doesn't always stay that. When we change our perspective, the opportunity changes. So I asked him, is there something that you want to do? Is there something that you feel matters to you more than anything else? And he said, well, I've always wanted to be a writer. So I sat down with him, and over a period of about a month, we worked together, and he ended up writing like little blog posts and things on Facebook and stuff like that. He didn't really get very many places, and he kept thinking down himself on himself. And I started using one of my other opportunities is the smarter goal method. And I taught him how to put his goal in a perspective that gave him the ability to decide what he wanted himself. And about 4 years later, he's now a successful writer in Seattle, making considerably more than I do. That's just one example. I've got literally hundreds more.
First of all, brother, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay. I just have one suggestion. You said may have had some success in here. What did you say? You remember what you said?
I said moderate success.
Moderate success, just say some success or something a little lighter, because there's a few people in here, made a few million. Something, you know what I've done anyway, but this is
If you're one of those
tremendous.
members, please see me after this.
This was a tremendous presentation. I love the fact you opened with a story. It's always about a story and something else, and you really agree with that, you know, so thank you. What you want to know?
Thank you so much for your presentation. Like you have your presence, stage presence, and your storytelling abilities. It's really clear that you're super passionate about what you do. I think what you do for your customers and who your target market is and what problem you're solving, may have gotten a little lost in your presentation from the EMS here. Something that I was particularly curious about, you have this line, sustainable networking. I've never heard that before. Can you define that?
Sustainable networking, sustainable network is one of the most passionate things that I developed. How many of us get up in the morning and just rush to work? Everybody, right? Nobody is really prepared. Okay. You might be different than 99.9% of other people. Most of us get up and we don't know what's happening next. We just kind of go with the flow. We get to the job that we're doing. We do the things that we're prepared to do. However, in doing that, we stop for coffee, or we stop for donuts, or we stop for any number of things before we go to work. And while we're at work, we're meeting with each one of our coworkers, and we're meeting with each one of our vendors, each one of our clients, each one of our insert placeholder here. And each one of those people has a story. Every single person that you interact with on a daily basis is not one-dimensional. So what if we can find a way to encourage that dialogue? What if we could find a way to put things into perspective? So when a person's in your present, they want to tell the story. That's sustainable networking. Because when people are telling you the story and they've got that motivation from you, your name travels. In unintended ways, unintended organizations, unintended everything.
I just have a follow-up question for you, and I'm so sorry if this sounds a little harsh, but in one sentence each, in very concrete terms, can you define your problem, your solution, and your market? Because this is a business.
Yes. So in one sentence each on each one of those, or one overall, because I can do both.
One sentence each. Who is, what problem are you solving, right? What's the solution, and who's your market?
So the problem, as I identified it initially, is no one really wants to be in the position that they're in, but I can change it. The solution is give people a reason and a passion to be the person they are, and everyone wins. And the demographic that I'm most intently speaking to are young people and veterans, because those are the people that are impacted the most by every little decision that we make. And guess what? Young people are going to be around long after the rest of us are taking up daisies. So maybe they should have an idea and a passion of what they want.
That's a good question. I was going to follow up with that. Baby shoes never worn.
Where's that?
Baby shoes. Oh. Probably you know the story better than I do, Rod, but
Tell a story in 6 words.
Supposedly submitted it to the Algonquin Round Table. Supposedly says the base of the Algonquin Round Table. You just read it.
Are you saying you want me to like sum up my entire business in 6 words?
well, the thing is when you're presenting your idea to people, story is number one. And you've got that. However, if you could be more concise about it, then you can get more points across in the same period of time. And additionally, the sooner you get, like what Deja was saying, the sooner you get to your point, then the sooner people can start connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of us in here have experience working with people like yourself to get to that point. And it's a process, right? So, I would encourage you to stick to the story. You start out great. And then take us to probably another story that builds upon the first one. It doesn't have to, but if you can connect stories throughout the presentation, that would be cool.
Well, I mean, I'd love to tell just stories, I really would. The problem is that they only transmit a lot of information in ways that people are ready to integrate into their lives. When I talk about the problem, put numbers in front of you. How big is the issue? Why aren't we doing anything about it? When I talk about the experience, the story tells my experience. I don't believe it tells your experience.
I think you should have told us more about your experience in the beginning as well, because that builds empathy in the audience, and it draws them closer to you. So I would add a little bit more of that. The presentation you covered good points, and the order of the points was okay. I might have changed one or two things. But the presentation on the screen, you had a lot of verbiage and other things and whatnot. The screen is behind you, it's literally behind you. It's literally a backdrop. All it's there for is to add a little bit more context because they were listening to you. Okay.
And I hope that I conveyed that.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, thanks for sharing. Thanks for your service. This is his book, by the way. If anybody wants to take a quick peek, it's freaking awesome. I love it. I gotta give this back to you though. I want to tell us another story. In the next 6 months, if everything goes exactly as planned, if you look back in December 31st and like, holy crap, this was the best year ever. What's going to happen in the next 6 months that moves this thing forward? What do you focus on in the short term? I don't want the 5-year plan. The 6-month one.
Okay, well, I love that question. Thank you. So in 6 months, I work with a woman who runs, as weird as this may sound, she runs a game. She plays a game called Star Trek Online. If anybody's ever heard of it, it's a fantastic game for what it is. And she asked me to get involved with what she was trying to do with her life. She hated her job. She hated what she was doing. And so I gave her some of the tools that I offer in my book. I offer the seminars, offer the modules. And she got a job paying better, getting more than what she wants, because I taught her how to assert herself and how to talk to the employers about what she wanted and not the job that they were offering. That person was at a point where they were dealing with incredible tragedy in their life. And they were at a point where they were considering suicide. So I spent time just listening to what they had to say, talking about the stresses of what that moment looks like. And over time, and it's still going on right now, we got to the point where she was overcoming the death of her husband, overcoming a chronic illness with her son. Things that I don't believe anyone should have to deal with. But she found herself in that position. How do you recover from it? In the next 3 months, we are planning on putting out different people in different conventions all across the country, people that actually live in those areas. So we can talk about my ideas, we can talk about her ideas. We can get that network going. And my goal is to stand in front of people very much like you. And in the next 3 months, I can establish what matters to me in a more profound way. And I hope that in that time, I don't have to wonder what if. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Achieve new things with my help. There's your 6-word story. Final question for you is, what can we as a community do for you?
The community thing I think I need the most is I need a time to sit down and talk with you. When I am at my best, it's when I'm at my computer, my awesome computer at home. And I have a chance to talk about things that are passionate. And I have literally 10,000 different things that I've written about every imaginable topic that I'm trying to do. And being able to talk about those things when I don't have to wonder, well, what if? I don't have to wonder, so where did I leave that? What's the name of the file? can I remember off the top of my head? Gives me the opportunity to really address the pain points most people have in their life. And what next looks like for them. So if I can sit down with you, just listen to what I have to say. I'm not looking for anybody to offer me a check for $5,000 or whatever. Just I had several people that I've talked to very much on this level that are throwing out my name to the clients that they interact with. That are saying, well, this person knows how to do this. Maybe we should contact them. I had 8 people do that this morning. It's like, I don't know how to fulfill all these particular promises, so I had to look at involving more people. The stories are really useful. Oh, so the top one there, we'll go to my website, and the splash screen is right there. You can click on the button when you. It's Amazon, Apple Books, Google Books, everything. There's an ebook available, and I'm currently working on the audiobook, but that's proving to be an issue. But I'm working on it. Thank you very much.
I do recommend, if you want to hear more of Michael's stories, have lunch with him or have coffee with him. You can go up to Barney's or New General, which is right up here, right after this. Barney's is a sponsor. We get coffee from them once in a while. So, but I recommend hanging out with Michael for a while. Plan on an hour and a half because he's got a lot of great stories and you definitely want to hear them. So next up, we are going to hear from Scott Hill of Technology and of Podwrx. Scott, what is Podwrx?
What a year. So here's the reality that we're in now, post 2020. Remote work. Love it, hate it, deal with it. And if you do remote work, you probably love it. If you're the employer who has people that do remote work, the jury's still out. Rent costs for office space is all over the place because A, there's empty offices all over, but prices are still going up. So companies are having to deal with that. Small businesses are having to deal with that as an issue. Large companies are having to deal with that as an issue. Distractions, squirrel. If you're working at home, distractions are obvious. If you're working in an office that maybe there were 100 people in before and now there's 5, or if you're working in an office where there were 5 before, now there's 100. Either way, distractions are an issue that we're having to deal with now, but we weren't really having to deal with on the same level in 2019 and before. And resources. Working at home, everyone who has been working at home for the past 3 years has developed some sort of ecosystem around themselves, and either they're very, very happy with it or they're dealing with it. So what are we doing in our daily operations, whether we're a small business or whether we're working for a large corporation? Well, we are frustrated on many different levels and for many different ways, and maybe sometimes we're just kind of giving up. So what if instead there was a location that somebody could go to that isn't necessarily the home office or it isn't necessarily the corporate office, but something called a third space? What if it was affordable? What if you could maybe not have to sign up a 5-year lease? What if it was, a little bit more flexible? What if it had things like high-speed internet, things like free coffee, always a good thing, or other amenities that you might be able to utilize by being in that space? And what if it was connected, not only internet technology connected, but also connected into the community? Would that be something that entrepreneurs and larger businesses might be able to like for themselves or for their employees? Enter Podwrx studios and suites and studios. A creativity, and you're not supposed to read what's up here, but I'm gonna anyway. I break the rules whenever I can. A creativity-centered co-working space designed for post-2020 communities featuring remote working, podcasting, and startup incubator and accelerator programs for creative entrepreneurship. Where do I want to put this? This is a concept that I'm in development. It does not exist right now. So if you ask me where it is, I will say it's still up here. Well, I'm wanting to put it down by the convention center. Why am I wanting to put it near the convention center? One, I want to put up a full-scale co-working space that is on par with what's downtown. Serendipity Labs, Greatercandle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So wanting to have something down in that area of town that is on par with some of the best ones that are here in the city. Again, near the Orange County Convention Center. Why near the Orange County Convention Center? My background is in that space. And I understand that there's a lot of hospitality-centered businesses that are either being worked out, the entrepreneurs are working out of their homes, or they're working out in their cars. And maybe they like some resource that they could utilize a little bit better. And my background, again, in the entertainment technical space, I'm originally an audio engineer, so coming up with some place that people could do professional podcasting, maybe a little bit higher level than they can do with their phones or the system that they have in their home, something that can be offered on that sort of level. Who am I looking to work with? Startups, entrepreneurs, enterprise businesses. Maybe, again, working on the whole remote work, trying to get a little bit more of the cat wrangling on their employees. Creatives. There's a whole bunch of not necessarily entrepreneurs, but freelancers and creatives that are creating content either for themselves or for other companies. And business travelers. I don't know if you guys knew this. People travel to Orlando from other places in the world. What? I know. Sometimes they're coming down here for vacation, sometimes they're coming down here for business purposes. So, any nerds, investors in the audience? Over the past 5 years, Google search trends for searching for co-working. And if you look down here, in 2020, there was a drop. There's probably a drop in a lot of things that were being searched for, and it was being replaced by a couple other things during that time. But the trend over the past 3 years has been continually moving upwards. Types of people that use co-working space worldwide, and there are a lot of them. You see the trend, we're up to nearly 5 million people worldwide that are using co-working spaces by next year is projected. This is an interesting thing. Here's Orlando right here. What does this graph mean? This is $2.5 per square foot for traditional office space versus $6 per square foot for flex space, or what co-working is. Isn't there? Now you think to yourself, wait a second, that's more. How does that actually save them money? Because they need less space for co-working than they do if they're giving a traditional office. So that is something that's interesting both to the investment side and conducive to those who are leasing a smaller space. Why now? Because co-working is still on the rise. A lot of people don't know what it is or not familiar with it, but started as a major concept back in 2007, and there were only 14 spaces in the United States. Where are we at? 2022, 6,200. That's more. I think from 14 to 6,200, that's a pretty significant increase. And again, the hockey stick is just continuing to go up and go up and go up. Orlando, we all have heard recently how we were ranked #1 by Wallet Hub as the best city in the country to start a business. Leisure, there's a word for you. Business leisure. When people come to Orlando, they're coming for maybe a business conference, and they want to tack on a couple days, go to the theme parks, go to the beaches. Guess what? They're business people. They're still doing work. We never leave that. Having a place where they might be able to come in and do a little bit of that work is one of the markets that I'm going after with having a co-working space down in the hospitality district. And new and existing small to medium-sized businesses still need a good location for their employees. Do I have a plan? Yes. Got a full-fledged business plan, 5-year prospectus, and I've been working on this for a little while. I'm looking at some spaces, again, down near the convention center that are conducive to the amount of space that I'm looking at. Between 11 and 24,000 square feet are the spaces that I'm looking at leasing. And again, I put together a full 5-year prospectus on what the revenue is going to be. Why would an investor want to be doing this? One, this is not a 10x your money or 100x your money kind of tech business. However, it would put investors in touch with those kind of businesses. What I am looking at is an 18% annual return. Right on par, maybe a little bit better than real estate investors are normally used to looking at. Who is this guy? This guy has less here than he did when he had this photo taken. In the technical entertainment industry, I am all over the place in Orlando and trying to get it in more and more places. And I'm a proud father of 6 for my marriage, but still, they're mostly all adults, and mostly adults actually act on adults. I have 2 companies that I work with, myself, technology, which you heard about. I pronounce it correctly, but I spell it also correctly. And then Technology Holdings Group, which is another company that kind of has other interests. I'm not alone in this. I've got some good advisors over the past couple of years that I've been working on this with. And my partner, who was going to try to be here today, but he's not, and that's okay. Tim is always yourself with people who are smarter than you. And I hate to say this about Tim. Don't tell him. He is smarter than you. Tim put together the original networking system for the NBA back in the 90s and worked for a number of firms on Wall Street. This is how to get in touch with me. You can go to podwrx.com and you can see my entire business plan. I put it out there for anybody and everybody to see. And my time is up. So if you have any questions, please come out to the screen.
Third question. One of the slides, there were 4.9 million co-working spaces in the world. There are roughly 5 million people co-working, so that's one space for every person. Why is yours going to be special? And what made you pick this outside that?
Okay, hopefully that was just 4.9 million people working it.
It was the nerd slide with all the graphs on.
6,200 spaces.
Okay.
Yeah, 4.9 million users.
The second question stands.
But what makes mine better, differentiates itself from the others? 1 is going to be location, 2 is going to be location, and 3 is going to be location. But there's also bringing together the businesses that work with the hospitality industry is not something that traditional co-working spaces have availed themselves to. So it's an opening into a new market. Okay,
Oh, I'll make this quick. I'm extremely biased. I spent the last 1.5 years of my life working for a hospitality-centric co-working space downtown, right next to City Hall. So I know everything about location. What other problems are you solving? Specifically, the top 3 for the entrepreneurial communities, like for your target demographic, that the co-working spaces that already exist are not focused on? Like, what is your key differentiator outside of location?
There's great question. And one of them is my passion of bringing in connectivity. There's opportunities to bring in the tech and startup community, especially here in Orlando, which is growing and flourishing, and the industry that brings in billions of dollars of people that just come here, stay for a couple of days, drop their wallets and leave.
Yeah, put that all on.
Business trip, leisure.
I will.
Leisure executive.
Tax deductible, leisure, working.
This is why you hang out with people smarter than
You mentioned, one of the things that was mentioned there was the idea of, it also being a startup incubator, particularly for creative industries. I'm just curious, what, sort of services will you offer that will, more than just space, that will sort of help people get things, off the ground or going?
Well, the goal will be to bring in some either established incubator systems, working either with UCF or something like Charter Studio. I mean, I've been in conversations with those organizations at an early level, but I would like to set up a starter incubator and accelerator programs, maybe from people who have done that sort of thing before. So Rupert over here. See, you have something in your throat?
Yes.
So that is a concept that is still in development, but that's the goal, is to have incubator and accelerator programs active in the facility. Yes.
Hi, as a creative and entrepreneur, I love your concept. As a person who works from home, I would encourage you to do the following. Get in your car one morning during the weekday, 9 a.m., door to door. What is it going to take to get from space to space? Because when I'm looking at the convention center and that area, for me, that's a deal breaker. I see it's traffic, it's expensive food. And so just want you to kind of think about what is the time invested for me to get from point A to point B? Because right now, for me to get to my office, to my kitchen or my bathroom, 30 seconds, okay?
Absolutely, that's
So,
fine.
yeah, I want you to look at that, because I see that you're looking at, the bleacher. However, you want the recurring income of the people in the area. And I don't want to go through a hassle to get to work, which is part of the, which is one positive of the fact that I work from home. So
Sure.
I love the idea. And as a podcaster, I'd love to see what your studios look like and everything else. So keep moving forward, but just check that, because I'm really into time,
Sure.
managing my time, and that feels like I'm giving up time that I don't want to give up. Yeah, so.
That's a good point. It's a lot worse if I were to set up in downtown. And then if you're coming down from Lake Mary to the convention center area, that's.
Having worked in downtown for 19 plus years, I would, as a random person, I'd rather go downtown than I want to go down towards the tourist area and deal with that.
Danny had his hand up too.
We're putting together the largest show ever in the convention center. About 2 years from now, we're gonna have coins, comic books, toys, and sports cards. It's gonna be about 100,000 people attending, and I put 18 extras together, but there's so many moving parts to this. Now, obviously, there's a lot of this is gonna be collaborative. We're all gonna have, chances to say, well, we need to do this, and have ideas come out of it. But one of the important things to us is we want to hire a bunch of podcasters, which we're gonna look for, who are experienced, in doing shows, particularly that about cosplayers, because that's be a big part of what we're going to be doing. We need somebody to manage them, to make sure that they're there, invited for free to the show, and make sure they do podcasts while we're there. And guess who we chose to do all that? That's Scott Hill, because we think he's a local expert in that area.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, two quick things. The what do you do statement, way too long. I was even trying to read it before you had a chance life. So something like co-creativity space for the leisure community. Keep it simple, get right to the point on that. Your target markets. You had startups, enterprise employees, creatives, travelers. Dude, that's everybody. You don't have a target market. It's everybody. So I think it's too many. And what I would do, and I think based on what this young lady said right here, why not make it for travelers only, for people that are coming into town, doing the leisure stuff? In fact, I would even lean into it and say, not for locals.
And in concept, that might be good. However, recurring subscription-based modeling for,
You have recurring travelers though. If the traveler constantly, when is there a time when we don't have business people traveling here for conventions?
Subscriptions, you want subscriptions?
yeah, I want some, I want subscriptions, and I want people that are utilizing on a daily or weekly basis. So the business traveler is a portion, but not the entirety of the target market.
We have Rod here.
I am here. Your target market, before I ask my question, what you could do is you could partner with the convention center and be their podcast host. Pay for that, be their podcast host. You'll get all the traffic from the convention center and from other hotels around there. And you could partner and be that podcast space that they send all their podcasters to.
The convention center is not the client for that.
But
People that are coming to the convention center
right, the
are.
convention center advertise there, so, but the question I have,
There's reasons why that's not viable, but we won't go into that right now.
Okay. So the question that I have is, when you look at a business like yours, there's so many co-working spaces out there. How are you going to change the world? So your big picture view has to be, how are you going to change the world? If I'm somebody coming to Orlando, living in Orlando, whatever it is, how are you going to change my world? And how are you going to take advantage of this huge shift in the market? And what is that shift in the market?
That's a great question to work on the answer to. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, one more.
I do tech consulting. One of the major problems I run into is a lack of scalability. I would work on a project and then I'd get a whole bunch of people come in and then my space couldn't handle it. How would your concept solve that particular problem?
Did you run a co-working space?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
This was up in Boston.
Okay. I am looking at, again, 11,000 to 24,000 square feet. If I fill up, cool. My scale, the scalability, which I didn't go into, the overall scalability of the concept is to drop these into other convention cities around the country and becomes a larger network.
I guess my broader question is, what's your level of modulation? How quickly can you adapt working space to fit a growing need?
The adaptation would be whether private offices are the focus, or if the more open space concept comes back a little bit over the next few years, and the design is to be modular in concept so that I can adapt to those market needs.
Okay, first things first, I think you might want to stay right there. We might have a line of questions for you after the end. This is a very engaging presentation, and thank you so much. Thank you guys for being patient. We're going to wrap up. What can we as a community do for you?
Okay. Great question. And the answer is, I do have in the works a survey that I'm going to be asking over the next couple of weeks people to take, which are going to address some of the questions that have been put forth here, plus a few others that I could go. By next week, I hope to have a little QR code or something that people can access that survey to. So when the survey is available, I ask desperately for everyone to fill out the survey, because that will give me more and more feedback that I can improve my presentation and take that to investors. Thank you.
Well done, both of you. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Did I ever give you like a QR code for that? I had one on my phone.
All right, so next week, we're gonna hear from brain health mentors. We're also gonna hear from Checked In and Luis Salgado, and if anybody follows Josh on Facebook, Josh had posted, or Luis had posted a picture of them and Josh corrupting them, teaching them about business. Sorry, I get those two confused. But anyway, so I'm looking forward because I know Josh has been working with them and honing their presentation. And so they're going to be here next week and we will see the results of what Josh has helped them do. If you want to download the chat on Zoom, click the three dots on the bottom right corner of the screen. If you are here in real life and you want a copy of the chat, just email me at eric.deckers@gmail. It's ERIKS at the end at Gmail. Join us on Meetup. Please connect with somebody that you met here today. This is how we build the community. You're going to meet, you're going to talk further, you're going to get coffee, you're going to get lunch, Zoom call or phone call. That's how we build this interconnected web of people that you know and say, hey, I got a guy for this, or I got a woman who can help you with this. So please do that. Go ahead and make it a great day. And thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week.
I'd like to remind you all.
Now, you and I, we don't have the meeting here for 4 weeks. I have to move my day. Because otherwise, if I announce it, there's a lot of people coming, business people.
Okay, you want to move from the
19th.
Okay.
Yeah,